the lekgotla of government, saying where we're going, which in a sense, some of his thinking were reflected in the State of the Nation address. When we're in Davos, we usually meet as a South African delegation to discuss how do we market our country among many countries that meet in Davos. The business from South Africa said, we hear you that there are going to be lekgotla meetings of party, the government, etc. Where are we? Why are we not party to this process? And of course, we said we welcome that with warm hands. And as soon as we landed in South Africa, in a matter of few days, we had that meeting. So business itself has interacted with the government on the thinking as to where South Africa must go. And of course, insofar as the labor is concerned, particularly, we interact with them along the way as we develop our policies. So they've also participated. So in a sense, we have said things that we believe South Africa feel. And therefore, as I said at the beginning, I'm expecting the colleagues here and the participants really to be part of the process. Perhaps more suggestions and comments and advice, given the fact that we now know what government thinks. Of course, I'm not saying there should be no questions. I've got my ministers here, and if I believe that the question needs a particular department or particular aspect, I would be able to say, Minister, just come and do your work a little bit whilst we are here. So they will be ready to come in, but certainly very happy to have this opportunity, and I'm sure we should give the time more to those who have much to say about the State of the Nation address. Thank you very much.
All right, I'm not sure if you can hear me. Right, there you go. We're going to take a quick break. You've heard from the President, and basically, the State of the Nation address was yesterday, and most of you have heard what the big issues are. And what we'd like to do is unpack those. Perhaps you want more clarity on some of the issues that were raised. Well, today's your opportunity to do that, and we're going to do that right after this break. So get your questions into us right away, and I'm also asking the audience here to do the same. We'll be back shortly.
to ask him questions, and this is how you get hold of us. The hashtag for this morning's discussion is Morning Live and TNA Biz Brief. And also to get hold of us, it's at Leanne Manis on Twitter and at Peter Ndora. Well, speaking about Peter Ndora, let's go back to him right now. Peter, it's over to you.
Right, very warm welcome back to everybody. Thank you very much indeed, Leanne. We're just north of Cape Town today, and this is the morning after the night before the State of the Nation address. And joining us to talk to us a little bit more about what happened yesterday and the message that he had is the President of our country, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma. Thank you very much again for giving us this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you.
And I suppose we can just start by saying, do you ever have days off? Can you phone in sick?
Well, if you do this kind of job that I was given to do, it's not easy to have rest like you do normally. But from time to time, it's possible to do so. I think what has been the challenge is just the size of the task that one is faced with. You feel like if you sleep many hours, many things are not going to be done. So you tend to sleep very little.
Gosh. Do you actually even take holidays? I remember George Bush was, I think, on holiday more than he was at work.
Yes, that's part of what is supposed to be happening. But I haven't been able to do so. I think the work has been quite a lot. But you are allowed to do so. But in December, there is relative ease when everything is closed. You could be sitting and having a rest, except that in my village is very busy.
Right,
when I get there, they descend on me. So at times I work more than I do at work itself. Yes.
All right, let's talk about the State of the Nation. I'm just wondering, when you're putting the speech together and picking the things that you wanted to share, what feeling did you want to leave the nation with in delivering that speech?
Well, firstly, I think that is in a sense determined by the situation itself. What are the challenges that face the nation? I think at first it's important to appreciate that. And what are the difficulties? What is it that their government is trying to do? Is the government succeeding to do so? If there are difficulties, what are these difficulties? In other words, it is the moment where the government shares with the people what are the difficulties, understanding very well and fully well what are the needs and the feelings of the people. Because unlike perhaps in many instances, I think our government is among the people. It understands what the feelings of the people are. That is why at times we invite people to make comments as we are exactly dealing with that. Ask people to do whatever communication to say, look, this is what I think should be done, or these are the suggestions. It adds to our own feeling about what is it that we feel as we move among the people, so that the people themselves, those who can speak, they can speak. So as you work on it, you begin to say, how do we tackle this? How to clarify these issues to people? How to make people understand what are the difficulties? What is it that we believe we can do? Where do we prioritize? And why do we prioritize this? And I think we often do things that we can explain if we are asked. Why did you specifically do this? So that when we explain, it's not something we thought of it, but it's something that you know the people feel about it. And that's how, as we prepare, we try to bring the country together. So it is not just government feelings. It is actually the feelings of the nation being, in any case, articulated by their government.
All right, I'm going to ask you for 2 ratings. And the first one is going to be just to get a gauge and a sense of where you think we are. You know, the speech explained a lot of things and sort of set out the successes and the challenges. The world has got flu at the moment. And I'm just wondering, South Africa, in the context of that, How do you think we're doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say if 10 was we're in perfect health, everything's going according to plan, we're succeeding? Where do you think on a scale of 1 to 10 we are as a state of nation in the health of the country?
Well, I think the health of the country in the circumstances is relatively fine. Because as I said, if you are a country in this globe, you cannot be immune from what happens in the globe, particularly when it comes to the economy. The world today is so connected, like one whole. Anything that happens in one part of the world affects the other. That time of national borders being more important, you could do whatever you do in your country on your own, are gone. Anything you do in your country affects others. There's a chain reaction because the world has developed to that level. And therefore, what has come since around 2007, etc., has been the economic problem that has affected the world. And that has been felt by everyone. It came at the wrong time when the world was really developing and going in leaps and bounds moving forward. That has caused the ill health generally. But unfortunately, those who have been around for a long time, like Eurozones and Europe, they are the ones who are the most affected. Now, if the leading countries in the economic sense are the ones that get affected, naturally, all other countries will be affected. So we are part of that, part of the continent, and therefore a region in the world, which is Africa, which has a very specific history, that if anything happens elsewhere, affects Africa in a different way because of its that kind of connection. And we have therefore felt it. But at the same time, South Africa is one of, as people say, the leading economies in the continent. And therefore the continent itself looks up to South Africa. And yet, in another sense, people will tell you South Africa is a very small country in the global sense. But in the continent of Africa, South Africa is a very big country. We at times we're very big, at times we're very small, as we have been explained. And therefore, South Africa has, in a sense, to work in a particular way to ensure that we don't falter, even to make sure that we move with Africa as it moves in this huge globe that we're faced with. So those are the kind of challenges
so
that
Dr. Zuma, scale of 1 to 10, how's your patient doing?
My pressure.
Your patient, South Africa, scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing?
Well, I think we're doing very well.
Is that a 6? Is that a 7? All right, okay.
We are.
We're doing well. I'm not sure where
We
that
are.
is on the percentile, but we're going to take a quick break, and then after that, we'll come back and try and unpack more of the speech and start getting some of your questions at home. Stay with us.
Watch my face in the mirror and try to recognize a friend. It's nice to see you again. It's better than nothing. It's something you can't get in.
Buy the new Peugeot 208 Access today and receive 6,000 Rand cashback.
This is the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC, and today kindly sponsored by Telkom. And our guest today is the President, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, who yesterday delivered the State of the Nation address, and we're here today with you at home as well, trying to unpack some of the issues that came through. All right, Mr. President, let's get back to our conversation. I know that a lot of people have got a lot of questions, so I'm just going to fire a number of the issues that we sort of picked up on yesterday, and then maybe we can just start the conversation. Crime is the one thing that people keep talking about. So, you know, when I go onto Facebook, Twitter, everything, switch on the radio, they talk about crime, they talk about rape, and I'm just wondering, in your speech yesterday, how do you think people can feel assured that something is being done? Because we're seeing, as you rightly said yesterday, an increase in the level of particularly violence against women. Do you think that what you said yesterday in terms of setting up special courts and that kind of thing is enough?
Well, I think it contributes to what we've been trying to do all the time, because it's not as if nothing's being done in relation to crime. I think we've put many things in place to deal with crime. That is why a few months ago, towards the end of last year, the department gave some statistics, whether the crime was rising or not, or going down. And I think they indicated that a number of cases, the crime has gone down. But there are specific types of crimes that they are very resistant, but not just resistant because of anything, not in volumes, but in terms of how bad these crimes are. If it happens, it just creates a situation where you feel, what else could you do? I think two areas we talked about, one of them is violence. Now, I think what at times we forget, where violence comes from, because I don't think as a nation we just became violent overnight. Violence is a direct consequence of apartheid. Apartheid was a very violent system. So violent that even if you're peacefully demonstrating, they will shoot at you and kill you. That called the reaction from those who were oppressed to become very violent in fighting apartheid. You could take it in a very simple fashion. The ANC that I belong to was a non-violent organization, persisted to say, let us not use violence. Apartheid continued. We were forced to take up arms. I'm just giving this as a very clear example how apartheid really planted violence in the country. And therefore, those who are demonstrating, for an example, because they are from that kind of situation that if you protest, you are going to be shot at. So they are already, in a sense, full of readiness to do violence. So you are from there. It spread to the society. It became a societal problem. Now, if we have that background, it means it's not a matter we're going to deal with overnight. We are going to take time. We must put a lot of things in place to say, how do we deal with this? How do we get rid of it? Because at times, in fact, I must make this point because it's important, because we know it from our own point of view. At times, apartheid used gangsters to deal with their opponents. And that's why gangsterism in itself, in some point, it was not dealt with because it was good to divide people, to make people keep on fighting together. So that's a culture we should, I think, appreciate in the first instance. You know, for an example, if you took a survey of the world, there are countries where there is more crime than in South Africa. What makes the South African crime to look like it's leading is because of violence. In other places, they pickpocket you, they leave you, or they burglar, they come in, they take, they don't want you to see them. But in South Africa, they burgle, they come in, they wait for you to come. They even kill you before they pickpocket you. It's a violent nature that has become the issue. That's why, therefore, the handling of women by men in particular, this violence, the domestic rape, don't just rape, they rape and kill. So it's terrible. We are saying punishment must be very severe. In such cases, you should not treat them as normal crime. Those who exercise violence, we need to have special courts that such people are, in a sense, not put in a long queue, but you deal with them so that justice is meted out to them as quickly as possible. We need also to have a psychological effect by the society to begin to deal with our people, to say, you can't do crime.
How do we do that? How do we change the mindset, Mr. President?
I think we are less talking about this issue. We've got many conferences. I don't think there are many conferences that actually deal with crime, to say violence is a wrong thing. I'm aware because I have had discussions with the religious people where we are actually thinking very seriously of establishing or of working towards organizing a summit on the moral decay of our country and violence, so that it must be everybody who must participate. It cannot just be the job of the government only. Because once we think we will all wait and wait for government to deliver, then we are not all participating, and government alone cannot succeed to deal with this bigger issue. But one of the things we've done, we've said, if we leave crime as you see it, as you see perhaps criminals, whatever, you take normal people. You take people who live in the settlements where people are. When they go for protest, they carry sticks, they carry dangerous weapons, they destroy property, they close roads, they do everything. If you take workers, organized labor, and you can't say these are criminals, just to make the point. If they go on strike, they believe you must destroy property, you must burn tires, you must do all of that. It's wrong. Now, we can deal with that one in particular because here we are not dealing with unknown criminals. We are dealing with people that you know. It's wrong because the rights that they have to protest peacefully and the right that they have to organize strikes peacefully is a right that other people have, because other people do have a right. I have a right to have my property. No one has a right to destroy my property when I've got nothing to do with it. Mr. President,
they are saying that if they're not violent, you're not going to listen, and that this is the language that you understand.
No, but that's wrong. But that's wrong. That tells you the culture of the thinking, which is a totally wrong thinking, because this is not true. It's not true. We hold meetings, izimbizos, with people in general areas. Nobody says, and they do say things. The workers are engaged. So it can't be right. Once we take that and we think they make a point, it's actually a mistake of encouraging it. They're wrong because as a citizen of this country, you must respect the rights of others as we respect your own rights. You have no right when you are fighting with a company and you come via my house to destroy my house. It can't be. You can't be trying to do so because you want to call the attention of government. We have said as government,
okay,
from now on...
Mr. President, if I could just ask you to pause for a second,
okay,
because the SABC desperately needs money, and so we need to take a commercial break. And then when we come back, we'll finish that point. All right, a very warm welcome back. We're in Cape Town, just north of Cape Town today, for this in the latest in a series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC and sponsored by Telkom today. And we're talking to the President. Mr. President, just before the break, we'd started touching on crime and how to deal with it. And you'd said that these violent protests need to come to an end, that people have to respect other people's property and other people's rights. And you were right at the middle of making an important point, if I could just ask you to finish that.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter. No, the point I was making was that if we are citizens of this country, and I'm locating the point, not to people who may not know in the townships who can say criminal is hiding, to people who are well organized, who understand, who are doing things knowing that this is their right. I'm saying they have an obligation and a responsibility to respect other people's rights. If I was demonstrating against government, I can't say my neighbor who happened to be along the road where I'm marching is now a government, and then I attack, I beat up, at times people die. I'm saying it's not correct. If I know I have a right to protest, I must also know that another citizen has a right to continue doing their things. I'm saying equally with the union as you strive. Now, we've taken a decision, because that's part of what is, in a sense, a very open education to people, to say, if you are protesting, as you say, then the government is going to listen to you. Now, you want the government to listen to you by killing a neighbor, by destroying a little shop of a neighbor. It's wrong. Now, we have said from now onwards, government is not going to tolerate that. Whoever destroys property, whoever bans anything, including blocking the road, putting stones and everything, is a crime. You are interfering with the rights of other people who are doing their own thing. Why do you think you have a right? Because you have a complaint. And we are going to establish special courts to deal with those people who are arrested in that kind of manner. Because our view is that as government, we must take a lead and deal with those who break the law. If we don't deal with them, then people are going to think it's right. That's why they'll develop this theory, which is wrong, that only when you ban and destroy, then government is going to listen. It's a wrong thing. We are going to say, if we have a complaint, the Constitution protects you to protest peacefully, to strike peacefully. But once you add violence, you are breaking the law. Now the government is going to prepare itself to deal with those kind of people. That's part of what is going to reduce a lot of crime. I can tell you, Peter, these two categories, protests, strikes, if they happen in South Africa, because of the violent nature in which they are, somebody sitting somewhere thinks that in South Africa is on fire, when it is not. When people are complaining genuinely about their things, but they are not allowing the response to come properly. So we are saying we are going to stop that, and I'm sure it's going to reduce a lot of violence in terms of public violence, because we are going to act against those.
All right, okay. I believe we've also got in amongst our guests today, we've got various cabinet ministers, as you said, and the Deputy Minister of Justice is here today, so hopefully we'll get a comment from there as the morning continues. But let's go straight to the tables and get some of these questions out of the way straight away. Let's start with table number 42, Karine Strydom. Karine Strydom, table number 42, if you could stand up. There we go.
Mr. President, my 9-year-old son wants to take you back to when you were 9-year-olds. He would like to know if you can please give his mummy, as a fuel retailer and who is an SMME business owner and employs less than 50 people, a tax break so that she can do more to create jobs for the unemployed, and also to be able to afford to give him more pocket money.
What is the question?
Okay, so you said you've got a 9-year-old who wants to get a tax break so that he can create more employment and give more pocket money to his son. Okay, so tax breaks for SMMEs, especially those that are employing a few people.
Well, tax is something that is an established a standard kind of regulation of society, and that also the society could look after itself through taxes. You will recall yesterday I indicated that with regard to a specific industry, we have asked the Minister of Finance to go and try to make some assessment to check what else do we need to do. Of course, we're talking about big business. Insofar as small business, I think the point made, whilst everybody is aware of the difficulties how to pay tax, including not just small business. And I'm sure if you were to be asked by a worker, it would even be worse, because a worker is going to say, I make no money except my salary. Why is it taken away? I think it is the kind of system that helps society to move forward. What I would rather say to the questioner is that the matter actually could be raised to say, can the tax take into account the circumstances of a particular business or whatever? And I think somehow, in my memory since 1994, I think there has been attempts to address those kind of constraints in terms of the size, how the business is doing. And I would imagine we might create an avenue where people can raise the issues. The issues, with some people, the issues may be more than a young fellow. It may be really that the business is crumbling. What do you do because you need the business? I would imagine if those issues are raised, and they need to be considered, because I appreciate the fact that democracy is about conversations as well. You are not dealing with a government that cannot listen. If there are more issues of this nature to say, business of this nature really is having it hard, I'm sure those matters could be looked at. I can't sit here and say, well, you need to have your pocket money for so and so, because I can say other people will be more squeezed than what you are.
Right, so
because the circumstances are not the same.
So that this 9-year-old should whisper in Praveen Gordon's ear, I think.
Absolutely. So I need my pocket money.
Now, one thing that we do know as well, and some people might not know, is that you do quite a lot for charity. And in fact, today, there's a special presidential golf day that's taking place in Stellenbosch. To find out a little bit more about what's happening out there, we've sent our sports reporter, Valen Kirtley. But let's go back to Johannesburg and just see what's happening out there this morning, and hopefully kind of what's going to come out of it. Leanne?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Peter. We're heading up towards 8:15 here on Morning Live, and we talk about this special day. Valen is there at the golf estate where this charity day is going to be taking place. But I just want to jog your memory a little bit from last night's State of the Nation address, where the President spoke about education, because this trust has a lot to do with education. He made it clear that education is regarded as an essential service. Now, remember that the ANC's earlier proposal to make education an essential service was met with strong opposition from different unions, but I think President Zuma explained it quite adequately last night, saying, and I quote, "Education is an essential service. We are not taking away the constitutional rights of teachers as workers, such as the right to strike. It means we want the education sector and society as a whole to take education more seriously than is happening currently." So that's really what is meant, and taking education more seriously, a huge issue that needs to be addressed in South Africa. Now, as we say, Valen is out at the golf course, and the trust that has to do a lot with education is out there. And they've got some questions for the President himself. Valen, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Well, welcome back to Stellenbosch and to the Giselza Winelands Golf Estate. This is where they, of course, are having the presidential address golfing day. They made 4.6 million rand for the Jacob Zuma RDP Education Trust last year. They're aiming to make 7 million. And with me, I've got one of the beneficiaries of the trust. Her name is Mkize Sitokozile. She is in her second year at UCT. She's studying a Bachelor of Social Work. And the trust has really influenced her life. Do you want to tell us your story and how it's inspired your younger brothers and sisters?
Sure. Well, I'm from a town I'm called Ikopo. I'm from in a rural area called Nogeja. And then my mom is the only breadwinner at home, so it was really weighing heavily on her or whatever. And then there's like 5 of us at home, and then like the extended family is staying with us as well. There's like orphans and my other family who like don't have like resources, and then they stay with my mom, and we all depended on her. So like it was very heavy on her, and then she didn't know how she was going to put me through. And then this was really like life-changing for all of us, and it's actually inspired like my younger brothers and sisters. They look up to me, and now they want to come here and join me in Cape Town as well.
Stunning. That's the kind of lease on life that the Education Trust is trying to give so many more children around South Africa. Education was a massive thing that came out of the State of the Nation, something that's very close to President Jacob Zuma's heart, and something that is one of the key areas that's going to take South Africa forward. The President is now sitting at a business briefing in Cape Town, just a couple of kilometers away. What question, if any, would you pose to the President?
I know there's a lot of people, and there's only so much they can do. Like there's so many people who like need this kind of opportunity that I've received. And then I'm wondering about the little children as well, because they tend to look at the bigger picture, the varsity picture. So like they forget about the children in like primary and high school, like preparing them to get here. It's like a mission as well, and like they need resources such as like books and like shoes, like the basics for school.
All right, okay, so that's Mkize asking, what about basic education for the rest of South Africa, and not just concentrating on those that are at a tertiary level and getting the opportunity like she did to further her studies at university. You'll be back at the Dezelza Golf Estate in a short while.
All right, thank you very much, Valen. And that question going to be posed to the President. Now, remember, you are able to send us questions here, and we'll certainly pose them to the President. Here's one that I received. Nosipo Njokwana saying a question to the President. Unemployed graduates who are over 35 years of age, because only 35s are catered for. What is going to be done to help those that are over 35 years of age? Here, you know, there's lots of comments as well, but I think the whole thing is to just try and get some questions to the President. Won't you please send them to us so that we can certainly ask them? All right, let's go back to you, Peter, now, and perhaps the President can shed some more light on these for us.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much indeed. So, congratulations on your foundation and the work that it's doing. And we heard from one of the beneficiaries there, and what's of concern to her is, you know, people needing the basics right down from primary, preschool, I guess, right through the system. What are we doing to help people deal with the basics around education in particular?
Well, as you know, the government has taken education as priority number 1. And I think, again, it has something to do with our history, but not going there. We've done everything. I think we are investing a lot as a government in terms of education. We thought, because of the challenge that we have, we must split one department into 2 and create basic education and higher education, because we wanted to get to the bottom of the problem. Why in our country the standard looks like it's not very high. When the kids get to matric, many of them drop on the way, very few succeed. And we thought we could not stay with that kind of practice for a long time. We therefore needed to really focus on the foundation of education, the basic education, and that's why we are very confident now that as we have begun to rise in terms of the results of matric, will never go wrong, because we are now dealing with the foundation. The foundation we are making it firm. But precisely because of the enormity of the problem, I don't think we've been able to reach every other part. That is why government at a given time, it said there are going to be schools that are going to, from poor areas, or that are going to be fees free, so that no child should be deprived of going to school because they come from a poor background or they're orphans. That has been part of massively trying to deal with that problem. Of course, when I started the trust, even before I did the foundation, was to realize, coming from the poor area where I come from and interacting with these people on a daily basis, that there were kids who were not able to go to school. Some were orphans, some were just poor. It was therefore important to assist them. And I knew that the contribution you're making was not big enough. If I had the means, I would be dealing with the country as a whole. Education is crucial, and we've been saying, therefore, what can we do to ensure that education is assisted? I think from the government point of view, we are doing all what we could to ensure that we are moving forward. We have moved to grade R, actually participated in it as an important starting point for any child. I think we are able to see the results. At the higher level, we have emphasized the FETs, and I can tell you they are accommodating a lot of kids who would otherwise not make it to matric, either by not passing it or pass but with very poor kind of marks that they're not easily accepted by the institutions. We are taking them so that they learn skills that do not necessarily need university. And I think the results are very big. I visited the FET in Pretoria, south of Pretoria, where I saw how much those kids that under normal circumstances would have been lost. They are now doing trade, they are developing themselves, empowering themselves, and they're very proud. We are in fact raising the importance of FETs, that they must not be looked at as the institutions for the kids who are not good. Those who go there, they're actually very good, and they come up, they are the ones who participate in the economic activities because they learn what is needed by the economy immediately. So we think we are doing very well. And, and insofar as my initiative, I think I have assisted, much as the number is small, a few thousand, but those have impacted a great deal to other poor families. So I think we're trying our level best, but it is a massive challenge that you're faced with as a country.
It certainly is a massive challenge. We're producing something like 220,000 jobs a year, but we need to be providing for 600,000 when we take these school leavers into account. What do we do? This gap is huge. We're not creating enough jobs. At the beginning of last year, you said this was the year of the job. Yes, the world has got flu, but what do we do with these school leavers? Is this youth wage subsidy going to happen? What form is it going to take?
Well, we have been discussing this issue, and you would appreciate that I raised the issue in Parliament. It was one of the, I think, the State of the Nation address, precisely because we're seeing the problem, the enormity of the problem. And we thought it was going to be an easy thing to let us bring subsidy, let us move. And what happened? People said, no, 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 no. It's not as you think. You say companies must be subsidized in order to take the young ones. And I was saying at the time, precisely because companies are saying, because of the cost of doing business, we can't take an inexperienced person. We need a person who's going to walk in, and because they've got skills and experience, and indeed begin to make an impact in the business. So if we are just coming from school, sorry. And that was creating a problem because younger people were in fact swelling the ranks of the unemployed. And I thought this would create a bridge if we could do so. But I think they're very strong. People felt, no, that if we said so, if you subsidize, you are going to make those who are employed to lose their jobs, because companies will employ those who are not subsidized, and they wouldn't have a great respect of those who have been working, because in a sense, it will help them in terms of the cost of business. So once that happened, precisely because we're in a democratic country, we then said, let us debate the matter. We couldn't force it. Otherwise, we would have been told we are dictators. And the matter was discussed in a structured fashion in Netland. The matter has taken too long, because much as they agree on a number of issues, there was one issue they were not agreeing that much. And therefore, we have said, instead of subsidizing the companies, we are now, because the issue of the youth unemployment is big, is a problem. It's generally a problem worldwide, but because of our history here, is a very peculiar to us. So we have said, let us deal with incentive, to incentivize the business, to incentivize everybody else, and therefore not deal with wage subsidy. That seemed to have created an agreement. I think there's general agreement on every other thing that people are talking about. So we have said that's what we're going to deal with. That's what I said yesterday. A lot of issues are being dealt with. In fact, in government, we are already employing a lot of young people through the incentivizing kind of system. So that is an agreement I was talking about yesterday, which should be signed not before this month ends, by Netland. The issue that people are dealing with is subsidy. And I think that issue is being discussed.
Okay.
Discussions will continue on it. But it has been agreed that the systems we've agreed on will in fact absorb a lot of young people.
All right, so it's good to know that end February we'll have something signed. Marlene LaRue, table number 35. Marlene LaRue.
Good morning. I will be very quick. On the education, I know our president is passionate about the education. I think our concern is the 30% pass rate to pass matric. It's a concern that we need to look at the pass rate, because it has an effect on our FET colleges as per se, and also the learnerships. It's extremely bureaucracy that is handling the learnerships. And I think as a country we need to relook at our CETUS in how it operates as well. The second question that I want to pose, the President has said that he will, in his speech, a new inquiry and correction about gender violence. My concern is that currently rape crisis that needs to be in every town is closing down because of lack of funds. Sarah Bartman, also an NGO that looks after women that's been abused, that needs to run away from home, is also closing down because of funds. It's a great concern that we do have, that civil society that is busy with human rights is closing down because of lacks of funds, and we need to address that. How can government and civil society take hands to look at our society? Lastly, on gender violence. No, I just want to, yes, that's my question about that. And the disability in particular is not mentioned again in the speech, the unpacking, and very little mentioned in our national plan of job creation, again, for persons with disability. I thank you.
Okay, all right, so 3 questions. Let's start with the first one. Can we as a nation be proud of ourselves in a 30% mark as a pass rate in matric?
Well, I'm sure we'll have views on the matter. We would want, I'm sure, the higher percentage if we could. If the Minister of Education was here, he was going to go into details, because she has explained the details, how much, in fact, we don't have a lower standard. And she has made the point, and I would want, because I don't want to miss this point, because it's so important, sure. And I know it is a concern of many. We have had a discussion in it in the cabinet. And I would actually say, I would ask the Minister of basic education in particular, to have a special program to explain this percentage, because there is an explanation that I understood as it was made, and I thought it was not as people are putting it. And that's what the minister was saying to us. So I would want that to happen, because I don't want to try to give an answer that I might not give the accurate details as the minister was operational.
Right. We will get the newspaper to address that and perhaps put it on their website.
Yes.
Okay, we've got NGOs that deal specifically with gender violence, rape crisis, for example, that are closing down, and yet you're talking about creating a gender commission. Is there any way that government can make sure that these NGOs that are dealing with gender violence stay open, give them funding, help them to stay open, to help you deal with this issue?
I'm sure that's a very good idea that we should have that. I think there is an interaction between the NGOs and government. And I'm sure that's a platform really that matter in particular could be raised. Because again, the NGOs are there everywhere. They are being funded. I know that there is funding that is given to NGOs. Others are funded by other institutions outside of the country. I would imagine we needed to link up with the NGOs, particularly on this issue, because it is an issue that is challenging all of us, so that we could see those NGOs that deal with this particular problem, how much or what is that we can do to ensure that they are not closed down, because they are doing an important job. So I will take note of that so that I could deal with the colleagues who are dealing with this specific matter, that this matter has been raised. We needed to attend to it.
And the third part of that question was about people with disabilities. The concern was that you didn't mention them in your speech yesterday, and perhaps not enough is being done for them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I would agree to that we didn't mention them. I think we had a lot of discussions which included the question of people with disabilities. In the lekgotlas that I talked about, I think it was perhaps unfortunate that they were not mentioned sufficiently yesterday, but they are in our minds, they are part of our plans. I can guarantee to the questioner that you have women in the government who are very vocal on this issue whenever we meet, as well as the minister itself. So the matter is not as if it is being left behind. Perhaps it was just a shortcoming not to put it as we put it, as we're making the statement yesterday.
All right, so we'll continue to take questions from the floor and from viewers at home as well. So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after this.
Right, welcome back, everybody. It's 25 minutes to 9 here on Morning Live. We are hosting the President. Of course, he delivered his State of the Nation address last night in Parliament, and the nation watched. And this morning, we're just recapping of what he has said and elaborating a little bit more on that. But I suppose the very big news story that's happening this morning in South Africa is the court appearance of Oscar Pistorius. Now, news is that there are hordes of journalists that have gathered outside the Pretoria Magistrates Court. That's where Pistorius is going to appear on the alleged murder of his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, at his home in Pretoria yesterday. The latest news out here is that he is about to arrive at the court. Apparently, he's around about 10 minutes away, and many people, of course, wanting to capture his arrival to see him after he has spent a night in the police holding cells last night. Now, one of the things that are saying is that he is expected to be charged under the Schedule 6 category of offences. Now, this is the most serious category when he appears in court this morning. So this will all be revealed to us in a short while this morning. But as the morning unfolds, remember, tune into all of the SABC news stations and we'll be covering this event for you. But right now, our focus is on the President and the questions that you are sending through to us. I've got a couple because as my Twitter account moves forward with many, many questions for the President, here is one that I think is very important to address. Ntutuzelo Ntsotsi writing to us and saying, we've been hearing about the eradication of squatter camps and mud schools. Is there any hope of this becoming a reality, Mr. President? This is from Ntutuzelo. Go back to you, Peter.
Leanne, thank you very much indeed, and welcome back. We're in Cape Town, just north of Cape Town, in fact, where we're talking to the President. Mr. President, just before Leanne came to us, she got a tweet from a listener who says, we've been talking about the eradication of squatter camps and mud schools, and they said, is there any hope that this is going to happen?
Yes, definitely. With regards to the mud schools, we have a program which is operational right now. I did touch upon it yesterday. We have a program, for an example, in the Eastern Cape, where the majority of them are. We are in the middle of it. I, in fact, towards the end of last year, went to hand over a new school and then demolish the mud school. So that program is going to happen. And I think not very far, we would be eradicating the mud schools. There's a program, there's a budget for it. So we have people not just on site, but actually working on it. Is part of our giving education, the priority. We are therefore saying, here is the money to deal with that one. So at some point, we'll be reporting progress on it. With the question of the squatter camps, I think what people at times fail to appreciate why we cannot eradicate them now, I think again is the failure to appreciate the history where we come from. You know that before 1994, huge population of this country were not allowed in the cities, except those that were needed. You had to be in Johannesburg, either born there, prove that. If you came from outside where there's no employment, you have to have a permit, and it was very difficult to get there. So you had also people who were said to be belonging in their own countries with funny names, not South Africa. You have Bantustans, independence, self-governing, etc. Once you had the freedom in 1994, it meant that you removed all of those restrictions. And therefore, these huge numbers that were not taken into account in terms of how South Africa is understood by certain people in this country, they came to the cities. The infrastructure was not ready to absorb all of these people. That's a problem. Even if you try to remove the squatter camps, people, the numbers are just too huge. Not only of people who came from outside, I must not leave this important fact. In 4-roomed houses, in all townships, we had overpopulated 4-room house. When people would sleep in the evening, they would have to use the dining room, the kitchen, as part of the bedroom. The numbers were too big. And therefore, even if we have got a list of people to give houses, is too big even to those who are in the urban areas, let alone those who come. So as we try to remove the informal settlement, the numbers come because the demand is they come to look for employment. They don't have the facilities or the housing. So the problem is very difficult. That's why you can't put the time frame that I'm going to finish it now. Part of the government program to develop the rural areas is in fact to try to take the jobs to where people are so that you slow down the movement from the rural areas to the urban area. So it needs a number of angles to be tackled. Okay. So it's not an easy thing. I can't give the same answer as in the mud schools, that these ones we are going to eradicate.
It is something that's being addressed.
Added to that is the inflow from the continent.
Sure.
That come to South Africa. So I think should be appreciated from that point of view.
Okay.
What people say, South Africa, you go there, you'll find employment, blah, 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 more numbers.
Land of milk and honey. All right, let's go to table number 7. Tsepo Mabuza. If I could ask you to be very brief, please, Tsepo.
Thank you. My name is Tsepo Mabuza from Emalahleni, now called a wheat bank. Mr. President, thank you for the other way around, yes. Thank you. Mr. President, we have a community projects where we assist the building of the schools and computer centers and libraries. To lead to that, we have designed a strategy where we have government exhibitions that is going to take place on the 5th of April. So we're inviting all the government to come exhibit and all the sitters. But the challenge is we're having a lot of challenges when we get to the government departments to get the assistants, to get them to come and exhibit. So we would like to assist. We would like you to give us the directions on how to be able to get through to that. Thank you.
Okay, so community development, he's got certain projects that they would like to get off the ground to create jobs and help the communities, but is not getting much assistance from the government departments. Can you crack the whip?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. We will certainly note it down because I think that's an important activity that you are undertaking. We are saying people must not wait for government to do things, but people themselves must participate as well as small companies. And if there are people who are doing that, they need to be assisted. So I will take that. I will certainly send it to the right people. I hope that the government people here are going to link up with you to take the details. Well, that needs to be attended to.
All right, it's recorded on TV for you as evidence, my friend. Okay. Jay Ramkisson on table number 10. Jay Ramkisson. Ramkissoon.
Good morning, Mr. President. Jay Ramkissoon, CEO, Maritime Business and Computer College. Mr. President, you have spoken about education and unemployment on various occasions. Mr. President cannot see me.
No, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. President. Yeah, you have spoken of education and unemployment on various occasions. It has been an issue which has now become very critical. I see this morning's paper, Mr. President, you say that there are 11,000 FET graduates that need to be employed in the private sector, and I agree with you. Mr. President, you may not believe me, but I think we do have, I may have, a winning formula and a model for you that can help us address this double scourge of unemployment and education in our country. Now, Mr. President, I wear two caps. One as a private FET provider in the maritime and shipping industry, and the other as a direct stakeholder in the shipping industry. And Mr. President, via our influence, we have provided jobs for hundreds of learners. As we speak, Mr. President, I can tomorrow employ another 100 learners. But we face an impediment. And the problem, Mr. President, is that I have 2,000 learners from 2008 who have yet to receive certificates from one of the SETAs in the country. And this issue has exacerbated the problem of unemployment, Mr. President. So my question to you, Mr. President, is this. Is there any direct forum in government that I can tap onto where we can address this issue of non-certification and other issues that we may have with the CETAs. Thank you.
Okay. Together.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I think it's absolutely an important point because the bottlenecks at times become a big problem for people to do things. That's why we've been discussing the matter of making business easy to do in South Africa, because we realize there are a number of things or obstacles or bottlenecks that at times some of them are not done because people wanted to sabotage progress. They are good insofar as they are concerned. But once there are too many and they don't talk to one another, that becomes a problem when it is not an intended problem. So what I would suggest, again, I would like to get the details and government people to take your numbers, because the issue is very direct. Somewhere, somehow, the CETAs are not playing the ball on this one. I don't think we should have that kind of a problem. So it's an issue I'm going to take very directly to ensure that I deal with that issue so that it is corrected, because you have a possibility to help us to deal with the problem facing us. Now, it looks like we are a problem. So I will deal with that. I'm sure we'll have your details, my brother. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, all right. So it's not just people here that have got questions, but people at home as well. And we've also got the golf going on at the same time. So quite a number of things that we need to touch on. Let's just go back to Leanne quickly and get a quick catch up from her. Leanne?
All right, Peter, thank you very, very much. And thank you so much to the President as well for answering some of those questions that have been coming through on Twitter. I think we're going to be crossing to Stellenbosch now. We have got Valen, who's been positioned there. That's where the Presidential Golf Challenge is going to be taking place this morning. It's a charity challenge, and lots of respective charities are going to be benefiting from this. Let's try and cross to her now. I think we're still trying to get that link up and running, and we certainly will, as soon as we can, we'll get that through to you. But one thing that's coming through as well is another question from Tabo, who's saying the youth are frustrated after embarking on a government learnership and are unemployed after these learnerships. Are they helpful? There's a question for you, wanting to know what's going to be happening here. Another one coming from Golani saying, what plans are there to curb what appears to be overpopulation in South Africa? There's another question to you, all talking about overpopulation in South Africa and the unemployment rate. There's also one here from Charmaine Smith. She's asking, please address the blacklisting issue. It's difficult to find a job when you are blacklisted and you cannot pay your debts. That's a reality. We all know about that. And then finally, I think the big one, really, that a lot of people have been talking about is the corruption issue. I know it was addressed last night, but it's something that South Africans want even more confidence in about, is the eradication of corruption at all levels and in all spheres of South Africa. So if we can address that, I think a lot of the viewers would appreciate that, although we've only got like 12 minutes left. Mr. President, we need you here all morning with us. Let's just find out if the link is up with Valen. Are we able to cross to her? All right, Valen's ready for us. It's over to you.
I've got Tonsel in my ear. Well, guys, thank you very much. Welcome back to Stellenbosch, and we're here, of course, for the Presidential Address Golf Challenge. And there's two parts to this. There is, of course, the golf, where we're going to see over 140 golfers go around this beautiful course here at Dezelza. And then, of course, they're doing it for a very good cause. They're using the vehicle of golf to raise money. They're hoping to raise 7 million rand to help beneficiaries of the Jacob Zuma RDP Education Trust. Now, looking at those two things, golf and education, those two things have punctuated my next guest's life, and that is Andrew Moketi Mlangeni. Thank you very much for speaking to Morning Live. I suppose, you know, when we speak about education, we speak about golf, those are two things that have really been the thread in your life, and you've been a part of this golf challenge for the last 8 years, and here once again.
Yes, thank you very much, Valen, for allowing me to say a few words to our listeners about this golf course, but in particular about the reason why we are playing golf today. I think you'll remember that even yesterday, in his speech, the state president emphasized the question of education. And he was saying, in fact, that he thinks that education should be regarded as an essential service to the people of South Africa, meaning it's putting it more or less on the same level as the nurses. In other words, although they have the right to participate in strikes whenever they are not satisfied with their service of employment or salaries, but all that must be done peacefully. And I think this is the point I was trying to emphasize yesterday. You can strike, you can protest, but do it peacefully. Don't destroy people's properties, please. That's what he's saying, in other words. This Jacob Zuma RDP trust, it's a very good event because he is here trying to raise funds which will help the children of South Africa, black and white, to get education. A large number of people, of children in particular, some of them are not able to go to universities or even to start school right at home. Yeah. But this fund, this RDP, education fund of Jacob Zuma, is a great assistance to our children. It is building and preparing our children for the future. And you must remember that the future belongs to our children and grandchildren. They've got to be educated, my dear. They've got to receive education.
Absolutely. Those are very wise words from a man who knows and has come a very long way with South Africa and with South African politics. Thank you very much, Andrew. He does tell me that the president gave him a gift of a bag of golf clubs recently, but it came with a clause that he has to teach the president, of course, how to play golf. And he says that the lessons are going fairly well at the moment. But of course, amongst the fun of the golf is that important message that education empowers the nation.
All right, thank you so much, Valen, for that interview. And let's go back now to the president and Peter, because its time is running out now. We asked from the studio about corruption, and we also posed that question about unemployed graduates. If we can perhaps have a look at that. It's over to you.
All right, Leanne, thank you very much indeed. In fact, let's get straight to that. So corruption, people think it's out of control. We read about big cases all the time, and the corruption indexes, international ones, point to a very poor picture. We're not doing very well on corruption, are we, Mr. President?
Well, firstly, I think from my understanding is that we are trying our best to deal with corruption. If I looked around in the world, I think there are very few countries that talk about corruption. And it's not as if corruption is not there. We came in, I think, when democracy came in and introduced the issue that there was corruption, we need to fight it. We are reported more about because we are talking about it, we are fighting it. Yesterday, I indicated the progress we've made. What is it that we are doing? We are even discussing the tender system, whether don't we need to change it in order to restrict the possibilities of corruption. So we are fighting it. It is a huge thing. It is a challenge to everybody else. It's not just corruption in government only. I know that people look at government only. It's corruption everywhere, including to the private sector, which is not often talked about. In the government, we talk about more, and there is, and we are arresting those who are doing that. I said yesterday I've signed so many proclamations, opening investigations on allegations that are being reported. So we are not as if we are not sort of fighting corruption. We are. Okay. It's difficult. As you know, even at times, police officers are found to be involved in it. It's an endemic. It is something that we need all of us to participate. we have been calling the community and society to report these cases of people who are doing certain things. And those that are reporting, many of them are being attended to.
All right, so let's go to table number 26. Mr. Hoa, I think you've got a question on behalf of a student.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay. The student is Buhle, and she says to you, she thanks you for the State of the Nation address. However, she says, towards the 5th democratic elections, she will be a new voter. Why must she vote? When will you, Mr. President, convince her to vote?
Okay, former ambassador to Cuba, Lindiwe Zulu, thank you very much indeed. So, we've got first-time voters coming through. When are you going to convince them to vote? That's the question. Why is it, should they bother voting?
I would really love to meet that one, to convince to vote, not just in generalities, to vote the ANC. It's absolutely important. Democracy is a system that gives citizens to have a say about how they are governed by whoever is the governing party. Now, if we can sit and not vote, it means we are in fact undermining our own rights. That's the only occasion where there's a very decisive action by individual citizens who say, in these elections, I would want this particular party to be in charge because I've understood its policies, it carries the interests of the people, and that's why you need to vote in the first instance. Every citizen must know that the right to vote is a vital one, to add a word as to who must govern and why. So I would be ready to convince the voter that they must. In fact, there may be many of such. I would encourage them to do so. In countries where there are no regular votings, etc., you leave the faith of a country into individuals who might not even be doing anything to deal with the needs of the citizens. So it's absolutely important as a citizen that voting is crucial in a democratic society.
All right, I'm just wondering if we've got time for one more question. Okay, yes, we do indeed. I'm just getting instruction there. All right, let's go to table number 9. Is that Mkhuli Li Gaula? Can't read your writing. Are you a doctor? Table number 9.
Thank you, Peter, for the opportunity. Good morning, Mr. President, and all of us in attendance. My name is Mkhululi Gaula. I'm from the Khayelitsha Community Trust, which is a public benefit organization that was formed in 2003 to facilitate economic development and infrastructure improvement in Khayelitsha. Mr. President, we would want to applaud you for the National Development Plan. It is a very beautiful blueprint in terms of economic development. But however, the more details is in date, and also success is more in implementation.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask your question directly to the President after this, because we're going to have to come off air.
Can I quickly sum it off, Peter? Sorry.
I've literally run out of time, my friend. So I'm going to have to leave it there, unfortunately, and say thank you very much indeed to our viewers, everybody that's here, that's joined us, and to the President. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for being part of our conversation today and giving us this time. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of South Africa, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of yet another TNA business briefing here on Morning Live. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's just update you before we say goodbye to you this morning. Apparently, Oscar Pistorius has arrived at the Pretoria Magistrates Court for his court appearance ahead of the alleged murder of his girlfriend yesterday, and that, of course, Riva Steenkamp. And apparently, court proceedings are scheduled to start at 10 o'clock this morning. So please follow all SABC News mediums. We'll bring you the latest. Have a wonderful day and weekend.